Welcome back to our series of live interviews here at the Your Careers YouTube channel and upcoming podcast. We will be discussing what it looks like to be an essential employee and leader now in 2020 and beyond. As you all know, my name is Jessie Wilkie. I am the owner and founder of Your Careers, where we partner with you to help you rebuild your confidence to land better jobs and salaries. So without further ado, if you could join with me in welcoming Chris McKinney. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, yeah, sure. First off, again, thank you for having me. So my name is Chris. When I host training sessions or whatnot, I typically get an opportunity to kick off these things by answering the obvious question in the room, and that is that I am 6'8". But in the virtual setting, we don't get to do that anymore. So it makes me a little sad. It's like an opening joke, but anyways, I got it out there. So, trust me, if I were to stand up, I'd be very, very tall. But
I see half of you.
yeah, Jessie's actually got a really great photo to showcase just how tall I am on her LinkedIn page.
I'm so short that I'm actually standing right now.
Very good. Well, my name is Chris. I am currently the Human Resources Director or Director of Human Resources for a handful of companies based out of Central Mississippi. So the primary amount of time that I focus on is the company that does business as Sprint Mart. Sprint Mart is a locally owned and operated chain of 90 convenience stores located throughout 3 states. That's Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and the predominant or the most stores are located within the state of Mississippi. That's the primary location in which we operate. But outside of that, we have another employer that operates some fast food franchise outlets that we deal with, some Subways and some Burger Kings. And then lastly, an EIN or employer identification number that operates our fuel distribution service, which takes the gas from the pipeline and then puts it in the ground for you then to go to one of our stores and then place it in your car. And so my responsibilities run the gamut of everything HR. I lead a team here that is responsible for all aspects of HR, including recruitment, HR proper, benefits administration, timekeeping, scheduling. That includes payroll and also safety and security, workers' comp, etc. The way I landed here is a story in and of itself. I got my start, or I cut my teeth in human resources in the world of training at a little place, a place that most people know and love in Central Florida called the Walt Disney World Resort. I was a cast member there for quite some time and discovered, well, first off, I thought I was going to be a musician. That was what my career path was going to be. I wanted to be a bass player and nothing more, nothing less.
Don't we all?
But I very quickly realized that there's not a lot of bass player jobs, and when bass players find full-time work that includes insurance, they never give that job up. So I transitioned towards the tail end of my degree in South Georgia in music to really kind of fall in love with the business side of entertainment, which really transitioned my thinking into one of more of just a business-minded individual. And I had every intention of stepping into leadership at Disney in the entertainment realm. And along the way, got introduced to this opportunity called facilitating or facilitating training at Disney University. So I became a facilitator of training at that location for the rooms line of business. So front desk or concierge classes that a new cast member would take as a part of their onboarding, and really discovered then that I kind of love training. It was great to learn while I was there, but then I recognized within my own career, hey, Chris, the next step for you is to now take this experience and build something. And that's what led me to connect with Jessie in South Florida. And that is what led me to obviously jumping on with training at Sprint Mart, always with the kind of succession planning idea that I step into the HR proper role here as director of HR. And so that's what lands me here.
What a story. And so you have a lot in training, and we had the pleasure, as you mentioned, to work together in training. A lot of my presentation skills are due to your influence, which I'm beyond grateful for. I don't turn red anymore in front of cameras, things like that. So I've had such an opportunity to work with you. But as both of us were in a position of training, right, we understand the vitality and the importance of talent acquisition, right? So
yes,
we get the opportunity to mold our associates and teach them the ways of the land, if you will, once they've already been recruited and placed, hopefully in a position where they will succeed due to their skill set, right? And so in knowing the importance of talent, can you dive a little bit deeper into what it really means for you to be the gatekeeper of talent as a human resources representative, or in your situation, a director of human resources?
yeah, sure. It's a great question, and it's one that I see. The answer to it is one that I see more and more companies embracing. Where the human resources field is not quite there yet, but with the assistance of really large scale organizations like SHRM, they're really touting the benefits of what it means for HR to be gatekeepers. And so truthfully, it means that if you think deeply about what is it that creates a competitive edge in any organization, it would really fall back on the people that make up that organization. I've heard people say, and I may be paraphrasing poorly, but I've heard people say that there are no great companies. There are great people that build those great companies, that create great process, they create great product, they create, let's say in Disney's case, they create great animated movies that connect with you, so that you will want to go visit Disney theme parks and have a really tremendous experience there. They contain the emotion of it all, and that comes from only one place, and that is the people. Artificial intelligence is going to do great things for human resources and allow a lot of headspace and capacity to do a lot more strategic things within the HR community, or within the organization, I should say. But ultimately, the key competitive differentiator for any organization is the people. And HR, human resources, talent acquisition, people operations, whatever you want to refer to it as, stands as the gatekeeper to be able to unlock that potential. We could have the greatest talent in the world surrounded by corporate process or a corporate structure that stifles creativity and doesn't allow for collaboration and just hinders ability in so many ways that could be seen or unseen. And HR is standing at the podium there, or standing at the forefront to be the voice of how to unlock that talent, whether it's flattening the structure of the organization to remove bureaucracy, or whether it's advocating for tools that free up administrative burden so employees can focus more on where their strengths lie. HR is that gatekeeper, and it is their responsibility to find how to unlock that talent in the most effective way possible for any organization.
There's so much good in everything that you just said, and I think that there's a major shift, especially right now in the virtual world that we're living in. And even before so, I think there's just a major shift in talent not only looking for skill sets, hard skill sets, I should say, but also a soft skill set for someone who will align with company culture, right? And so we talked a lot about, you and I have talked a lot about this off screen, where this shift in aligning with company culture is going to be not only HR's key to unlocking highly qualified potential candidates to bringing their business to the next level, but also for the applicant's opportunity to unlock various and exponential opportunity for their career growth. The job hunting process and the interview process is not just about finding company finding an applicant or a candidate or an employee who aligns with them, but also an employee finding a company that aligns with their own values, right? And so I think this opportunity for HR to stand at the forefront and say, I'm going to hold true to what I know we need as a company in the people product, if you will, to be able to enhance the service or the product or the experience that we offer and commit to that, I think is going to be creating next level opportunities for not only business growth, but career growth. And so with all of that said, and shifting into what we've learned in 2020 with COVID and you being an essential employer, can you tell us what you think these gatekeepers will be looking for in regards to essential skills for a leader or an employee? And if you have your top 3, your top 5 that you can give us, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. What a question, right? And I think can I reserve the right to change my answer in a week?
Absolutely.
I think the first one that comes to mind, and it's difficult to teach per se, but I think right now is of the utmost importance, and that is just the simple fact of being flexible. I will be the first to let you know that there are a lot of business leaders out there who are guessing just as much as the next person in that, what is the new world going to look like when this all settles down? And again, I understand that I am so blessed to be speaking from a place of gainfully employed during this time, as there are so many in the training environment or HR for that matter, who don't have that luxury. And in fact, you and I know full well a lot of our peers in the hospitality industry, which has taken a tremendous hit. I think the hospitality industry is a perfect example of everybody's asking themselves, what do we look like when we exit this? And there's a lot of business leaders out there who are left just asking those very questions. And so that's got to be the reason why I say flexibility. Knowing that you are in HR or knowing that you are in accounting and saying, okay, this is my box. Businesses are requiring more out of their people right now, and they're requiring their people to do more with less, just because that's the survival mode that we're in. I heard the author of a book, Jocko Willink, he wrote Extreme Ownership with one of his Navy SEAL buddies. And he mentioned on a podcast that what we're in right now is somewhat of a retreat tactic. And that's just really what it is. It's either medicine or it's a tactic, whatever you want to call it. But as a society, we're going to need to know how to emerge in the next phase of the tactic. And in order to do that, it's going to require people who either they're currently gainfully employed and they are asked to take on more with no guarantee of what it looks like in 6 to 8 weeks, or they are looking for their next career opportunity. And in the interview process, somebody comes up to them and says, now I know I'm hiring you for training, but would you be willing to learn the payroll process as well? The ability to look them in the virtual setting and say, yes, I'll take it. Whatever you want me to learn, I'll figure it out. I will work to learn those skills if that's what you want to hire me for. I think flexibility is the #1 thing, just because we're living in such an ambiguous world right now that nobody knows how it's going to settle.
I love that you said that last part there about the interview, because I had an experience myself in my last role where I applied for training manager and ended up stepping into a dual role of training and engagement manager by the end of the interview. And it was one of those things where in my mind, and I think in a lot of applicants' mind, we have a roadmap of how we want this to look like, how we want this to go. We strategize our questions, we strategize our answers and our selling points, and we have a path of where we want to take our career. And by the end of the interview or halfway through the interview, a hiring manager says, yeah, but I'd like you for this instead.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a halt in our thought process of, wait, no, that's not what I wanted.
Right.
However, where we may have used to be in a time where we could have said, I'll look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of what we're in right now is being able to be in a position where we can be flexible and can adapt and say, okay, that's not exactly what I had pictured, but with the circumstances that we have now, I'm ready and willing to serve, which reality, that's all work is serving and showing up to serve in the best way you possibly can. And
Right.
for you to be able to say, I'm going to be flexible, I'm going to show up to serve, and I'm going to take what I can get at the moment and utilize the skills that have always been loyal to me in my success to propel myself in success in this current role. I think that is a phenomenal trait to have right now, with so many companies just saying, I want someone who's going to show up and who's going to show up 100% every day.
Yeah. And full transparency, that's how I landed in human resources. I mean, I feel guilty some days where I've written this in articles where I feel as if there are people out there studying HR proper, receiving their master's in the field of human resources study. And I have the luxury and well, I happened upon an opportunity when someone presented it to me to say, hey, how do you feel about going into HR proper? And it was, Richard Branson says, if someone offers you an opportunity, say yes. And if you fail, we'll move on to the next one. But if you don't, you gain valuable new skills. Say yes to it and try your hardest to get there. And I will be the first to admit that I am just lucky enough to have that very experience.
And I think we could talk about this for hours, being in in the circumstance that we are, but there's been a lot of clients of mine where, coming from director, assistant director, or high-level positions, are saying, Jesse, what do I do? And with the ones that I've been blessed with the opportunity to be a bit more candid with, my answer has been, well, it's time to take a slice of humble pie and do what you have to do and do what you need to do during this time to be able to stay afloat and continue not only to stay afloat, but I think there's a value in just staying in any type of workforce at the moment, because especially when you're a leader and you're going to go take a position where you're no longer that, which I've currently had to do, you remember what it is to be a line level employee. And I think when we think we may be losing opportunity to develop other skills because we may be taking a position that we're not necessarily comfortable with or used to being in our most recent career endeavors, we learn that we learn more by being put in a position where we might have to be flexible, as you're saying, to adjust and acquire new skill sets. You'll learn to be a better leader by stepping in the shoes of your line level employees, and you'll learn what leaders look like from an hourly position because you forgot what it was to be an hourly.
Yes, completely agree. So yeah, flexibility, if so I don't lose your question here, flexibility would be number one. Number two, I think now is the perfect time, considering the amount of people that are who are actively seeking their next career opportunity. The ability to upskill. And we've heard about this from multiple areas, and the beauty of today's day and age is YouTube can teach us so many things. There's so much valuable content in podcasts, and just consuming whatever it is you can consume. I've learned to fix my car just by someone on YouTube made a video, and I saved myself a $500 repair. So the same thing can be said for your career, and I have to applaud many of the folks that they were my colleagues when I was in Central Florida at Disney. I think it was Rollins College or UCF, University of Central Florida, that offered an online hospitality management certificate. Many of them took advantage of it. I think they gave away a couple thousand of those, like slots in the next program. And I noticed so many people who were certifying themselves in hospitality management by doing nothing more than responding to a Facebook ad where they advertise it. And they now exit this, whether or not they're gainfully employed now or not. They now have the certification and the confidence to know, I've studied a program that has said we've surveyed the entire landscape of some industry, and we're saying that you contain the knowledge and the skills now to hang as a manager or a leader within said industry. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that during a lot of the downtime in the work from home during the lockdowns. Downtime, I say, just in boredom time, where I finalized, or I finished up the study for SHRM, Senior Certified Professional certification. And I know you did something very similar with the HR Institutes. It's very easy for us to just get down on ourselves and ask, why are none of the 40 applications that I sent out earlier today returning any response from recruiters? And rather than get discouraged within ourselves, understanding that recruiters are just as swamped, or now the person who used to be the HR generalist has been asked to take on recruiting because the recruiter was laid off, activating that time by upskilling or learning something, whether it's coding or entrepreneurship or hospitality management. I think the desire to take all the effort that you would pour into what could be considered a regular job, and pour that into learning, gaining new skills that help you in the marketplace when that opportunity finally comes along, is the next, that would be number 2 for anyone searching for a career right now.
I think that's awesome. We tell a lot of our clients that there's no skill that's a useless skill. And I think we get so caught up in what the job requirements are or where we're headed, right? That we say, oh, I no longer need this skill on my resume, or I no longer need this skill in general. When reality is there's no skill that's useless. And so if you continue to build your library of skill sets, when you come into a time where you may have to pivot, as most of us are trying to do now, it's almost like you have this backpack of skills that you can just pull out and say, okay, I'm able to utilize this in this company, this in this role. And it gives you an opportunity to really just broaden your market of where you're applying to and the opportunities that you have. Because a lot of us will say, there's no jobs out there, no one's hiring. But is that really true? Or is it that no one's hiring for the skills that you currently have in your backpack, right? And so if you can upskill, now you've just enlarged your range of opportunities. So I think that's a great point. So what's your number 3?
I think to tag on to that before I go to the next point, I think it would be important to tell someone searching for their next career as well, that the responsibility of how you tie those skills together for an interviewer or on a resume, I mean, that's your responsibility. So for the longest time, I would get questions from people who were looking at my resume, and they would go, you went from music to training. That seems like how do you even get there? And I spent a lot of time crafting kind of a response, and it's totally authentic and truthful, but I had to learn how to articulate how all of my skills made me a more valuable employee to whoever was looking at hiring me. So yes, upskill, and yes, devote an equal amount of time to figure out how to tell someone why you went that route and why it makes sense for you and why it's valuable to them.
Absolutely. Bridging the gap, I think, is one of the number 1 things in not only applications and resumes, but interviewing. And so when you do pivot, I think that's brilliant, is how do you bridge the gap between career A and career B and career C, so that you can showcase that the skill sets that you've developed on one end will be able to transfer and translate to success in the next realm. I think that's brilliant.
And then lastly, number 3, and this is something that for everyone watching, I really admire Jesse Wilkie for. And that is remain curious, because your next opportunity may look nothing like a job. Your next opportunity may look like what you are doing, which is inspiring me. I have always had the bug to have my own company, have my own thing to kind of craft and develop. And I think you got there because you've remained curious and open to opportunities. And really, you know, you and I connected a little while ago to talk about some of the ideas for today. And in full transparency, I changed this one just yesterday when my daughter woke up, and they haven't gone back to school yet. And she woke up, she's 11, she's going into 6th grade, and she's just kind of looking at the iPad like she does normally in the morning. And she just looks up from the iPad and says, "Hey, I want to paint today." She goes out into the garage. She finds an old cardboard box, these big cardboard boxes that we had from a backyard patio furniture set. And she cuts off one whole side panel, sets it up in our dining room area, and paints this beautiful, really mature, like abstract piece.
Wow.
That I afterwards I was like, "Abby, you're 11, and this is
Right.
like, this is making me think." And it was all because she remained curious enough to say, "Hey, I want to paint. Oh, I don't have a canvas, or I don't have an easel." She didn't make any of those excuses. She went straight out to the garage. She found something that was literally garbage we were going to throw away. She cuts it off. She paints this beautiful thing, and now it's hanging in her room. And we'll never throw that piece of cardboard away, because she was curious enough to make something out of nothing. And I think that comes from curiosity. And whether it's curiosity and upskilling, or remaining flexible so you don't close yourself off to new opportunities, there are opportunities out there, but they don't come to the person who hasn't put on the eyes to see them. And so remaining curious into what could be the next opportunity for you, I think is a vital skill. And really, there's not a lot of training that comes into that. It's just remaining inquisitive and seeing the world through a new set of eyes to see, well, what could be an opportunity over there? Or, you know, I've always been at a large organization. Maybe an opportunity for me would be to step into a smaller organization with less process, less procedure, and learn new skills in that way. I speak for myself when I say what I've learned in stepping away from a large corporate structure and stepping into maybe a smaller company that I never envisioned myself being a part of. What I've learned here would have taken me 10 lifetimes to learn at a place like Disney, just because everything is so compartmentalized. And that's certainly not a knock on large corporate structures, because there's a lot to be learned there, but there's also a fluidity to business, and there's a fluidity to the interview process and the applicant process that exists, that sometimes can only be gained when you step outside of a large corporate structure. So remaining curious and open to those opportunities wherever they exist, I think will lead you to your next opportunity sooner rather than later.
I love that. And you're very kind to say that I sparked that, as well as your daughter. Congratulations, you have an artist. But I'm not surprised, since you are a musician. So I think it goes hand in hand. But you said something so lovely there, where your daughter took something that would have originally been garbage and made it beautiful. And I think that, or maybe not even beautiful, which she did, but she took a piece of garbage and made it something useful.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a beautiful message for where we are right now, where, you know, it gets hard. It gets hard when you're, you know, you're not in the job anymore that you used to be. You're sitting on the couch. You might be, granted, and I'll give our listeners the benefit of the doubt, trying to upskill, right? Trying to utilize and maximize that downtime, right? But even so, you get to a point where you're just like, what is this? Like, what is the point of all this? And you can choose in that moment to focus on the garbage, quote unquote, that we're in right now of 2020, or you can choose to see the piece of garbage that some of us may seem to see 2020 as, and shift it into something useful for yourself, right? And so everyone at the beginning of 2020 was like, this is the year of vision, right? 2020 vision.
Yes.
And I still hold true that it is. And the reason I say that is because I don't think it's the year of vision in the way we thought it was. And maybe that's exactly why. You're in a position where, you know, you've given an opportunity to be able to see things in a different light. And that's why I still hold very true to the fact that I do really still think 2020 is the year of vision, because I think it's just, we've been given a different lens to give ourselves an opportunity to see things differently. Should we push ourselves to look through a different lens than what we've been looking through for the past 20, 30, 40 years? With all that said, these are all amazing. So we said flexible, we said remain curious, and we also said, what was the second one you mentioned?
Upskill.
Upskill, that's right. So with those three, if we don't have these already, what is your best advice in helping us to develop them, whether we're at work or in our downtime, as you said before?
Yeah, I think the good news about some of these, and I kind of touched on it there a moment ago with remaining curious, is that teaching yourself flexibility and remaining curious is not hard. These are more like behaviors, right? It's just making the conscious choice to say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to be closed off to certain things. I'm going to remain flexible. It's making the conscious choice that if you are gainfully employed right now, and the COVID saga has I think just exhausted a lot of people, myself included. It's ongoing, and there are days where you think we're getting over the hurdle, and then those are the days where all of your fall plans, whether it would be travel for conferences or other speaking engagements that you've got, they all cancel at the same time, and it just continues to be this marathon. And I know that it has presented many different challenges in the workplace, specifically from HR, and ways in which we've chosen to tackle those. And I'll be fully transparent. There have been days where I'm like, I just do not know if I have the brain space to be able to take this on and deal with more as it flies at me. But the simple decision in that moment to remain flexible and take my own advice and remember that we're all just trying to make it through right now. We're all just trying to see what it's going to look like on the other side. And right now, your organization needs you to do this. Whatever it is, it's big work and it takes a lot of mind space. But the difference comes in, I have a choice. I could cross my arms and I could say, you know what, it's too much. Or I could recognize that everybody's just trying to keep it together as much as they can in the moment, remain flexible and do what I need to do. And whether it's from someone on a webinar that you're watching with Chris McKinney and Jesse Wilkie saying, I give you the freedom to say to yourself in that moment, you know, I'm really frustrated about this. Because you could be, if you're being asked to take on work or you're not getting calls back for an interview, you're allowed to be frustrated internally. The challenge for us is to externally promote who we are at all times and continue to convey the value that you either are bringing to an organization right now or that you will bring in your next opportunity. And then the same goes for remaining curious. It takes seeing things differently, and you can train yourself to do that just in small, subtle behavioral ways throughout any normal day.
I agree 100% with that. Something that I typically do when I'm trying to take on a new skill is write down 1 or 2 ways of how I can tangibly implement that into my life. So whether it's one way that I can be more flexible, or one thing that I can learn this week to upskill, or one thing that I can look more into because I've always wondered about that one thing. And in reality, if we practice this in in small doses, even if it's in regards to something totally unrelated to our professional journey, you'll start to notice that you're able to translate those skills to when you do take on the next career role or the next job or the next opportunity that you have to propel yourself to the next level in your career. And I think just taking some of those tangible ways and writing down and saying, hey, I'm going to say this week I'm going to focus on flexibility, and this is one thing I can do to be more flexible, or this is one thing I can do to upskill, or one thing I can do to be more curious. And I think everything that you said is so tangible and such a great way for us to be able to implement those things in our life. And I think the main theme of today was really just having an empathy and an understanding for where we are right now, and then remaining flexible and curious in being able to adjust to where we are now, so that if our skill sets are not going to be able to be utilized immediately, they will be able to be utilized in the future for whatever is coming our way. And I think that that was so brilliant to just focus that conversation there without even trying, because I do think that with 2020 comes a lot of development in patience and empathy and open-mindedness that maybe we hadn't had to stop and develop for a little bit.
Right.
Because we've been so busy, we've been so nonstop, and in a society that really just prides no breaks and keep on moving and keep on climbing.
That's right.
The whole world, or at least the entire United States, since this is where we are, has just really said, nope, this year you're just going to stop and you're going to listen and you're going to open your eyes and you're going to evaluate and remain curious about what your next opportunity is. And so couldn't have said it better than you did.
You are wise beyond your years, Jesse. I'm telling you.
It can be a great thing and a bad thing, but I'll choose to remain open-minded into the fact that it is a great skill to have. Before I cut you off, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our audience that you did not share? We talked about a lot today.
We did. I mean, yes. There you were talking there in the end about just ways in which we can do this tangibly. And if I go back to what I mentioned about maybe it's just someone giving you the freedom on a webinar to think this way, to kind of tag on to that, maybe what you need to hear is, or not so much tangible ways that you can do this, but just motivation from others who are experiencing similar things. I think it was John Maxwell who said, people tell me that motivation doesn't work or it doesn't last. That's what it is. People tell me that motivation doesn't last. And John would say, yeah, well, neither does bathing. And that's why I recommend it daily. So I hope, even though there's not concrete steps 1, 2, and 3 about how to get you where you're going, I speak from the heart when I say that I believe in everyone out there searching for the next stop in their career, and I know that it is out there, and there's no evidence throughout human history that indicates in any way, shape, or form that the human race won't exit this stronger and better on the other side. And there will be opportunities for you in the future. I know it.
I could not have ended that better. Thank you again for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure to reconnect with you and share your wisdom and your enthusiasm from Walt Disney World and everything else that has taken you through your career with our audience today. If you want to connect with Chris, you can find him on LinkedIn. If it's posted on LinkedIn, we will tag him so you can connect with him there. In addition, you can find us at www.yourcareers.com. That's spelled Y-O-R, careers with an S.com. You can also follow us on any of our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We are at Your Careers. Again, that's Y-O-R, careers with an S. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you have an awesome day. Remember, this is your career.